everyone, it's Sonic Wolf and welcome back to more Let's Play EarthBound. Now this is going to be the last episode, which is kind of sad but also a relief. Because this game, it is a very long game and it almost ran for over a year. So I'm going to end on a high note and show you some bonus features. I will show you some trivia notes as well as some things that I might have missed throughout the walkthrough. So without further ado, let's get to the trivia. The first thing I will actually explain is the game title. In Japan, it's actually called Mother 2. Well, the first sequel they actually did is called Mother, which is actually only on the Famicom. But then in 2015, they actually put it in North America and it will say EarthBound Beginnings. So yeah, the title is a little bit different based on the region. Speaking of the name, the title is a little bit inconsistent, especially when you look at the player's guide, the titles on the gameplay, as well as the cartridge. The title isn't exactly the correct title, especially when it's capitals or if there's a capital B in it. Yeah, on the cartridge or other, things, it would say just EarthBound, just all lower cases. But on the player's guide, it would actually say EarthBound with a capital B. Yeah, and sometimes it would say EarthBound, which is all capitals. So the title is a little bit inconsistent. Also, on the title screen when you start up the game, it will actually say The War Against Gygas as a subtitle. Unfortunately, that's the only time we get to see the subtitle anywhere. In Mother 2, it would say Gig Strikes Again. So it will basically have a capital M on Mother in Japan, but then it would say Mother as in all capitals. So the title in both versions is very inconsistent. Oh, and speaking of the opening title, there is something that a lot of fans and a lot of people were kind of questioning about this artwork when you start the game. It's just a couple of UFOs basically destroying the whole city. Now, it's very unclear if the photo is actually real, but it doesn't actually look like it's a stock photo or anywhere. It's basically just someone just customizing, making an artwork. I think the closest image I found, which is kind of close to the EarthBound's one, is a photo that was located in Winslow, Arizona in the 1950s. It would say things like the gas station and the cars, and yeah, there's not really much similarities, but that's kind of the closest thing. From what I actually saw for Mother 3, there is actually a stock photo which does actually have the EarthBound graphics. It wasn't actually in EarthBound in general, but this is what the image looks like. It's a cafe which is in 16-bit graphics, only in Mother 3. And yes, it is actually a real photo, but they just had to, shorten it for the pixels. And the restaurant is called the Ostrich Burgers Historic Summoning Inn Cafe, which is located in Oak Hills, California. Unfortunately, the restaurant actually burned in 2016. So that's enough about the titles. Let's look at Gygas. And the only difference is the name. In EarthBound, Gygas is actually called Gygas. It's a bit hard to pronounce it, but this is actually what it says on the title. In Mother 2, it would say Geeg. And yes, the title and the name is a little bit hard to pronounce, but it is actually called Geeg. Speaking of mispronouncing names, there is actually one word that I keep on mispronouncing, and that is actually the meteorite that you find towards the end of the game at Arnett. So I can synthesize the material, xenot, I can't really spell that or even say it properly. Now, I constantly said it in the incorrect way, but I did show a text on how it's supposed to be pronounced. And it's actually said, the Zexonite. And now, finally, let's talk about the final boss. Yes, so Gygas or Gig, when you're actually fighting him on his third form, there's actually some really weird texts that are actually showing it hurts, Ness, you cannot grasp the true form of Gygas. There is actually a bit of a trivia note, because Shigesato Itoi was actually having these feelings towards it. So to get a better understanding of the backstory, Shigesato Itoi, when he was actually a young boy, he walked into the wrong movie theater. And the movie that Itoi was actually traumatized by, it is actually called The Military Policeman and the Dismembered Beauty, which is actually filmed in the 1950s. He was actually having these traumatizing thoughts as a kid, and he thought that he actually saw a rape scene. That is not technically true, so when he was developing the final boss, he was actually having these thoughts in his head and then trying to translate it into, Gygas's dialogue. There's actually no kind of comparison towards it, but it's just these thoughts that he was having. Now, I have seen the clip of when he was actually traumatized from, and no, it is not a rape scene or a porn movie. It's basically a woman that was actually captured and then basically cut up into pieces hidden off screen. You wake up in the middle of the night and then your mommy basically tells you to open the door, which is completely unnecessary because why would an 11-year-old basically open the door in the middle of the night? Because there will be burglaries. In EarthBound, it would say the end with a question mark. In Mother 2, it would say to be continued because they were developing Mother 3 with it about 12 years later. Unfortunately, we never get to have Mother 3 in other regions. It is only in Japan on the Game Boy Advanced. They did try to originally make Mother 3 on the Nintendo 64, that was sadly never released. The last thing I want to mention is riding a bike in Magicant. I tried to do a lot of research on it, but unfortunately you cannot ride the bike in Magicant. It would say you cannot use the bike here. That's probably from what I've actually heard. Speaking of Magicant, I wanted to show the tombstones, which I actually forgot to show you. If one of the flying man actually dies, it will actually show on a tombstone. So you only get 5 flying men, and you get to see like 5 tombstones if all of them died one at a time. Okay, to end things off, let's talk about this contest in EarthBound. When they were developing EarthBound, they were doing a lot of promotions and a lot of contests for the game to get kind of popular. Unfortunately, it wasn't really popular back then because they think the graphics are way too simple, and because it is really, really expensive, that they had to put a player's guide inside of an oversized box. And this contest is kind of like just a pizza contest. The basic rule is once you have the player's guide, you look on the very back of the page, there'll be like the scratch and sniff pages where you smell each of them, and the one that is fully covered in green smoke, you smell it, and then you try to figure out what the smell is from. It could be like pizza or something rotten or anything weird in particular. I do have the player's guide here, but unfortunately there is no sniff and scratch function, which is kind of sad. And then you go to their website and then you basically put in the details about what the smell is from, and it's kind of like a contest. Within about a month, or I have no idea how long, they will give you a message or email saying that you either won the contest or you haven't, and you'll get this special item or some kind of delivery in your package. And what is this item? Well, apparently it's this Much Pizza guy, which is actually like a tag that you put on your car. And when you smell it, it would actually smell like pizza. Unfortunately, you will only get to use it 3 or 4 times, so the item is kind of useless in general, but it is actually one of the rarest EarthBound items ever. And with that, we have finally come to the end of this Let's Play. So I hope you guys enjoyed this walkthrough. There are some good times, some bad times, but we finished on a really high note. This has been Sonic Wolf. I'll see you guys in about 3 months, and I'll see you guys on my next Let's Play.